last minute knowing that you have such a carrot dangling and waiting for you in a couple of months' time? I'll go to you first, John.
100%.
Why so?
You need to be active. AJ's not been so active in the last couple of years. I know he's had slip-ups in the past against last-minute opponents, but he needs to stay busy. If he's going to beat the likes of Deontay Wilder and his top dogs, he needs to be active and be on top of his game.
How are you?
Yeah, listen, I think so. I mean, he's just got with a new trainer. He's only had one fight under him. I think he's still learning, getting to know him. So I think it's good that he gets a run out before he goes into a real good fight against Deontay Wilder at the end of the year or early next year. So I think it's the perfect time for him just to get up, get a run out, look good, and then onward to look good.
Darren, would the demons of what happened the last time he had a late replacement be playing in his mind, you think?
Possibly, but I remember when I was fighting, you almost sort of go into a trance when that first bell goes, and I can imagine AJ will be the same. It's just another fight, another day in the office, and knowing him, knowing he loves to fight, I'm sure when he had the conversation with Eddie, or Eddie had the conversation with Alan, he was like, yeah, I'm fighting all day long.
Eddie, we're going to go off to you. Obviously, it's not even been a week since it all kicked off. I remember exactly where I was. I was in the gym, and then the email came through from Matchroom, and I was like, oh my days. What a calamity. Eddie, can you give us a timeline of how it all unfolded?
Yeah, I was on East Coast time, so I was 5 hours behind a lot of the guys in the UK, and I was just going out for a bite to eat, and it came through on the phone. And I don't know, I think we've experienced it before, we've been through so much in boxing, nothing surprises me anymore. And I didn't really do a lot other than just go, are you joking? Are you doing it again? What? You know, and then it was a case of, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning, and I didn't want to message AJ, I didn't want to interrupt his sleep. I thought if he's up and he gets that, he ain't sleeping. So I'll wait to speak to him in the morning. And I didn't know what his reaction would be. I knew he'd be frustrated, but his reaction was, I've trained 12 weeks for this fight. I've had one of the best camps I've ever had. I want to fight, don't care who it is, just find me an opponent for Saturday, please. And I was glad that he said that, because obviously, not just for AJ as well, but the show, you've got to think about the other 16 fighters on the card. And these guys know, you don't fight, you don't get paid. And it's a very unique job in that respect. So you can train for 12 weeks, and you're also spending money, you're investing money in your camp, you know, and AJ spent a lot of money on this camp. You know he does camp. I mean, you go out, he's in a house in Dallas, you walk in the porch, there's a hyperbaric chamber that he's just bought, you know, and I can't tell you how unique this guy is. He's like a gadget freak, right? So when I went around his house in Dallas the other week, he just finished sparring, he had like this hat on, and it was like an ice pack, and it had a little machine, it was like funneling cold water to, you know, sort of just keep his head nice and chilled and relaxed. He's got the Blu-ray glasses on. He gave me this gadget, and it was like this neck brace with a big arm on it, and you put your phone in it. And he said, that's good because it rests your hands. So rather than holding it like this, you just have to just touch it every now and again. Then he's got these things on the walls, you see him do like with the react. So everything is designed for improvement, to get any kind of edge. And he's the most remarkable character that after all this time, he's just still obsessed with performance. And I think because of the work he's done with Derek James, and I'm not just saying, I think these guys have really gelled now. And the way he's looked in sparring, the way he's been bashing people up, I think you're going to get a great performance from him on Saturday, and he wanted to showcase that.
Yes, indeed, and we're all super looking forward to that. But Eddie, you know AJ probably more than, or better than any of us here, right? I know he sent you a very nice text message, you know, after you had messaged him and told him what happened. Deep down though, you think he was annoyed? Was he annoyed? You think he was a bit pissed off?
Yeah, for sure, because, you know, these guys have been focusing on Dillian Whyte for 6-7 weeks, and now they've got 5 days to focus on a different opponent, a completely different style. So in that respect, but I think because of the stuff he went through, again, same with us. After you've been through it a couple of times, it doesn't really hurt you anymore. So I think he just looked at it and went, I remember this against Jarrell Miller. Now, unfortunately, the similarities are frightening. You know, last time an opponent failed a drug test, it was Jarrell Miller. We had a late replacement, it was Andy Ruiz. We were lined up to fight Deontay Wilder. The only thing that people were talking about on Ruiz fight week was the Deontay Wilder fight. Now we've got an opponent failed a drugs test, we've got a late replacement, Robert Helenius. Now we're fighting Deontay Wilder next. Everyone's talking about Deontay Wilder again. So we've got to make sure there's no slip-ups this time. And Helenius will be dangerous. He's 6'9", he fancies the job, he can punch a bit as well, but I think he's a good style for AJ. Definitely a better style than Andy Ruiz. And but there's a lot of deja vu about it. I mean, he laughed about that the other day, but focused to not make the same mistake.
Absolutely. Jordan, we'll come to you real quick. You know, for the fighters that are on the undercard, what must they have been going through once they heard the news?
I think it'd have been a stressful situation for them, because obviously I think the card's in jeopardy. So again, they've been through a camp, they've been training, they've put the work in, they've been investing in themselves. So obviously everything's up in the air for a little while, no one really knows where they're at, but at the same time you've got to keep you focused, keep your head and stay on track kind of thing, because the fight could still be on. So it's a tough situation for them, but the fighters that I know that were on the undercard, they kept their head, they kept their wits about them, and they kept working. So I think it's worked out alright, to be fair.
And they're on you as well. I mean, Maisie Rose, right? So it's like, you know, I'm dealing with this situation, I'm negotiating with about 15 heavyweights around the world, all want like 10 mil. Do you know what I mean? Trying to stitch us up. And then every now and again a DM comes in from Maisie Rose. Any news? Am I still fighting? I'm like, I'll come back to you, we're trying, you know what I mean? So, but those kind of people are relying on these fights. They're fighting 4 or 5 times a year at the early stage of their career. You miss a fight, you know, you're behind financially in the training camp. So, you know, she's talking about, if I don't fight, maybe I've got to go back to work. And you don't realise AJ's taken a massive pay cut for this fight, but those at that level, fighting's everything, because it's their livelihood.
Absolutely, and John, obviously, people like Maisie Rose will be hitting up Eddie because just people trying to make weight. You understand what I'm saying? You know what I mean? What's that like, having that degree of uncertainty when it comes to close to fight night?
Of course, I mean that's the difference between the takeaway on a Saturday night or the salad. You know what I mean? But they've done well to keep their head. I know their heads were about to fall off, but listen, Eddie's done a great job in keeping the show going. He looked in doubt for a while, but he's pulled it off.
Absolutely, yeah, he has done. Eddie, what has Derek James had to say about all of this?
Calm as well, and it's important to have a calm head, because I think, as John said, when a fighter loses his head, the first person they'll go to is the trainer or loved ones or close ones, and that's when the trainer's got to make sure that AJ stays focused. So, you know, you've got the news, right, let's go and do a session, and then when they find out it's Helenius, you know, he said yesterday about the only thing that really changes is the trajectory of the punches. You know, he's 6'9", Robert Helenius, and Dillian White's 6'2", 6'3", whatever he is. So, you know, it does change in that respect. And I think just getting the confidence with AJ, he's fantastic at carrying out a game plan, but he's got to believe in the game plan. And now with Derek, I think he actually believes in the game plan. He believes in instruction. And when he does that, it's very difficult to beat. It's just that when he goes into the fight, not sure, maybe second guessing himself, maybe not quite believing in the game plan, and I think that's what happened, particularly in the first Alexander Usyk fight. He didn't really believe or feel comfortable with what he had to do that night. And this time around with Derek, I think he's got someone that looks him in the eyes and he believes it.
Absolutely, yeah. John, now you must have trained alongside Anthony for a few years whilst he's at the old matchroom gym with Tony, and you've seen his rise from his debut all the way to world champion. Just how much has he done for boxing in this whole country?
He's massively levelled it up alongside Eddie. He's brought massive nights of boxing back to Britain, and you've seen it at the O2 where it started for him, to Wembley Stadium and all around the world, Cardiff. He's put boxing back on the map massively and gave us all massive opportunities.
I'll jump in there. I think I'm responsible for all of this. I was at his first signing. None of you lot would be here if it weren't for me. All right, so I'm the reason.
Can I tell a story? Not the ticket sales story, but the one about the Stern fight with Wayne in the sauna.
All right. Yeah.
It's not now I've really built it up. It's actually not as interesting as you might think it would be. Yeah? So when Darren Barker boxed against Daniel Gill for the world title, I've never seen a more focused, driven, obsessed guy to win this fight. Right, so much so that he switched up his training. For those of you who don't know, Darren's hips have always sort of given up on him, I guess is a good way to describe it. Yeah, maybe? Okay. Yeah. So he started doing more stuff on the trampoline and more swimming and stuff like that. And he started working with this mind coach and I think yoga guy called Wayne. And I remember speaking to Wayne that week, and everybody wanted Darren Barker to win so much. And I said to Wayne, "How are we looking, Wayne?" And he went, "Honestly, there is no way he will not win tonight. He is in the zone, his training's been unbelievable, he hasn't missed a session, there's been no injuries, and he's just, you know, he's dialed in." Before you left for the venue that night, I think you actually had Wayne in your room before you left for another little switch on.
Had a bit of a wobble.
Did you in the room? You had a little bit of a wobble, got Wayne in the room to calm him down, and he went out and, you know, he'll tell you the story, he won the world title, we know, you know.
That's
Anyway,
clap.
yeah, well done, Darren Barker, very well. But Darren, that was like a big moment, and we never thought we'd get there because of his injuries and stuff like that. And the next fight was a big fight, big payday against Felix Sturm in Germany, and we were really up against it. He had a load of supporters, and that week was very nerve-wracking. And you know, I'd left Darren to his training and hoped everything would be fine. And the night before the fight, I was in the sauna, right? And in popped Wayne, right? And obviously, when you speak to a fighter, they never tell you the truth, ever. Particularly about their weight. Sounds like, actually, most of us, right? How's it going? Oh, I've had a great camp. How's your weight? Bang on, right? Remember Kell Brook, before the Carson Jones fight. How's your weight? Great, 2 pounds to go. I think he missed off a 1 at the front of the 2. It was about 12 pounds to go. And of course, it wasn't a good camp for Darren. And he had a number of injuries going in that camp. And I sat down, Wayne came in, I went, "Wayne, big night tomorrow, how are we looking?" He went, "Yeah, good." I was like, "What?" He went, "Yeah, with his injuries, he's really not been able to do much in terms of training." I'm like, "I've just told the world's media this is the best camp he's ever had." And went in there, and from the first bell, Darren came out, and Darren was, you know, aggressive enough, but always a smart boxer, and came out and just stood in the middle of the ring, trading with Felix Sturm. I was thinking, what is he doing? And that's because he knew his hips had about 2 or 3 rounds in them. So he thought, I've got to win this fight by knockout. So never believe.
I got done in the second.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to put that in. I was going to say it was in the early rounds, because that way people might have thought you made it to the 3rd or 4th. But what I will say is, one of the things I'll never forget in my career of boxing, and not going in the ring, but just being around these great fighters, is Darren Barker knew really that was probably his last fight because of all the injuries he's had. And I'll never forget, you went back and you had your ice pack on your hip. I think one had popped out of its socket, the other one was hanging off. And we went back to the change room, and he sat down on a chair, and I think it was your dad or your mum or someone got you a beer, and you just sat down on a chair, and you went, and I looked at you and I thought, that's his lot. You know what I mean?
Any kid here, plug your ears. The actual words I said were, "Thank fuck, that's over."
Yeah. Never again. And I thought, that's his career. And what a way to go out. Went out on your shield. But as I said, never believe a fighter if they're prepared well. Or every time you hear an interview, how's camp? Camp's been unbelievable.
Best camp I've ever had.
It's a standard answer, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, from your beginnings with Darren Barker to AJ, you've worked with AJ for a decade this year, right? Which is insane. What has stayed the same? What's changed, and what's to come?
What's stayed the same is AJ, honestly, like remarkably, and a lot of stuff has changed around him. I think the most difficult thing for him was he wasn't someone that was built or born into this life or lifestyle of living in a bubble. So don't forget, for a normal young man who just likes going to the park and playing football and riding a motorbike over a field, everything's changed. To can't walk out of the house without being filmed, can't go to the cinema, can't go to the coffee shop, because you guys know what he's like. He's got time for everybody. So once he stops for one person, he stops for 40 people. So his life has become a little bit intrinsic, and I think that's, you know, people don't see there's pressures of that. A lot of people have the perception that, oh, AJ's made a load of money, he's won world titles, what a life. Not really. Like, his life is actually boxing, boxing, boxing. And when he moved to Dallas, I thought, well, that's good, he's going to be able to go out to the cinema and go for a coffee. He don't do any of it. He just lives like a hermit to just be the best he can be. And, you know, when we was in Dallas, we went for a walk, and some guy stopped him. He said, oh, you know, I just want a bit of advice. He said, I'm a legal graduate. What? You know, how do you stay so driven? And he said, when I started in boxing, I said to myself, I'm going to give it 10 years of sacrifice. Everything I could give to this sport. He said, it has actually been 12 years now. but the mentality is still the same. You know the quote Marvin Hagler said, it's very difficult to get up and do your runs when you're wearing silk pajamas. But that's why I respect people like AJ and Canelo Alvarez, because they train as hard now as they did when they first walked through the gym. And I think that's remarkable. And to do that, you have to have a passion for what you do, but you have to be a winner. And there's not many people like those guys.
I've always going to say that's the reason why I respect AJ, because he's still wears cotton pajamas or something like that. Jordan, whilst there's still more chapters in AJ's life, there's no doubting that he's paved the way for so many others, right?
100%, 100%. I think he literally single-handedly put British boxing on the map. I mean, look what he did after the Olympics. The way that boxing blew up in the UK was insane, and I think he is the one to thank for that. He has done a lot for the sport, especially as a boxer, and look where he's come from to where he is now. He's a standout individual for the sport, man, definitely.
He is indeed. Now, everybody knows what the world of social media is like. Darren, why do you think he gets so much stick online and on socials as well?
I think it's when you are one of the best, if not the best, people want to knock you off your pedestal. Whether it's jealousy or they're envious or whatever, people want to have a pop at the #1 out there, and it baffles me, if I'm deadly honest. Like, you know, you've heard the other three talk about how pivotal and important he's been to boxing. I will say this, and this is a fact. Boxing comes in waves, a bit like a roller coaster. You know, I can imagine when Muhammad Ali retired, boxing dipped a little bit. There was Larry Holmes, and probably didn't get the credit and respect he deserves. One of the best heavyweights of all time. And then all of a sudden Mike Tyson comes on. He retires, a little bit of a dip, Lennox Lewis, and it goes in waves. And let me tell you now, when Anthony Joshua retires, we will miss him. We'll miss the big nights, we'll miss the fight. I will certainly miss Anthony Joshua 5 weeks. I'll miss the energy in the O2, the stadiums, and so will these people. So will these people that are behind their phone or behind their computer giving him stick. They'll miss him. They'll miss him as well. Whether it's giving him stick or the good nights I will miss. He has been pivotal to British boxing. And I think just enjoy the rest. I don't know how long it's going to last, so enjoy these last 2-3 years, whatever it might be.
Amen to that. Now, we're gonna turn our focus on to Saturday night. Robert Helenius, big fight. How much do we know about Robert Helenius? I mean, obviously, he lost to Wilder recently. He fought on the weekend as well. Would that put some pressure on AJ to try and knock him out as quickly as Wilder did?
I think there is pressure on AJ to beat him and look good, but I think AJ will see it as just getting a job done, tick the box of getting the win, and move on to bigger and better things.
But what is it like fighting somebody that one of your rivals has fought and is beaten in great fashion?
I think no matter what you say as a fighter, if you're fighting someone who one of your rivals has fought and they beat him in such fashion, it's one of them, no matter what you say to people, you're always gonna, deep inside of you, you're gonna want to outdo that person, no matter what. So I think AJ might say, he just wants to go out there, get a couple of rounds in and look good, but at the end of the day, I do think he wants to go out there, put a demolition job on it, and look real good doing it. So I think there is that added pressure, for sure.
What kind of game plan do you envision him coming in with Eddie, with that in mind?
I think it might be cagey early on. I mean, Helenius is 6'9", he's got decent reach, as AJ has, but also he's got a good jab and he can punch with a backhand. So I think, and he'll throw as well when AJ's throwing, and that's a danger. You know, ironically, when AJ boxed Andy Ruiz, Deontay Wilder knocked out Dominic Breazeale the week before, and AJ said after the fight, they had in his head, you know, Wilder knocked out Breazeale in a round, I wanted to go out there and like smash this guy up, and when he dropped him, he just didn't think about what was coming back. He's a different fighter now, he's a smarter fighter, a little bit more tentative. When people talk about the change in style and he's more tentative, he's just smart, that's all. Like and he said the other day, I thought it was fascinating, the first press conference, when I was young and just knocking people out in 2 or 3 rounds, I just thought, as soon as I hurt someone, I thought, quick, get him out. Because I don't know if I can go 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rounds. So I ain't going to take any chances. But obviously, swinging away with your chin in the air against higher level opposition, as we found out against Andy Ruiz, doesn't always work. So he is smart, he likes to break people down. But I think when he lands on Helenius, that's when it will be all over. But it's not easy landing on a 6'9" guy who can move a little bit as well.
Absolutely. We're going to break this up a little bit and take some questions from the from the audience. If anyone's got a question, feel free to pop your hand up. We've got one at the front here.
Hello. Eddie, so if you could go back and not promote someone, who would it be? What signs when you promote it?
Unpromote them.
No,
Wow, what a question. Wow. Unpromoted. Do you know what? Nah, I'd have to say it'd probably be Jarrell Miller.
Really?
You know? Because we don't really see eye to eye because, yeah, no, Chris Eubank Jr. No, but, yeah. I did the worst fight of my promotional career, which was Chris Eubank against a guy called Tony Jetta in Sheffield. Who was the main event? Was it Kell Brook? We did a fight in Sheffield. It was Kell Brook, I believe. Yeah, and he got injured. This is what we have to deal with, right? Obviously, like Saturday as well. And all of a sudden, same thing, all these guys on the show. Kell Brook sold all these tickets, everybody gets a refund. And I'm left with the co-main event, which was Chris Eubank Jr. against Tony Mo Getter Jetta, or something like that. Right? I mean, you know, it should have been Tony Not So Better at all, because he was, and I'm sorry if he's watching, I'm Tony, we love you really. But yeah, and it was like, there was actually about 800 people there in the Sheffield Arena, and the fight went 1.5 rounds. But, you know, I don't like to unpromote anyone, but I guess if it's going to be anyone that I've promoted who doesn't like me anymore, probably Jarrell Miller. Good question, Frankie. Sorry?
What's that?
Malik Scott against Lewis Ortiz.
Yeah.
Malik Scott against Lewis Ortiz.
One of the worst I've been to.
I'm
Okay.
serious, yeah?
So let me tell you the story about Malik Scott against Lewis Ortiz. So the Prince of Monaco says, we would like you to do a show in Monaco, very prestigious, but we want an exciting heavyweight matchup. I thought, oh great. We just signed Lewis Ortiz. I mean, this is 6 years ago. So he was, no, he's in Monaco, if you listen to the story. Yeah, he did against Dave Allen, right? But this was 6 years ago, so Lewis Ortiz was like 48 at the time, right? And I chose Malik Scott, which was the worst bit of matchmaking ever. Lewis Ortiz, like a little bit of a southpaw counterpuncher. Malik Scott that just runs around the ring. I've phoned up Peter Nelson from HBO, and I've said, Peter, I've got a fight for you. Lewis Ortiz against Malik Scott in Monaco, in front of the Prince. You've got to buy this fight for US TV. Don't know about Malik Scott. Did he take a dive against Deontay Wilder? I went, no. He's bang up for it. I'm telling you now, he's promised me he's coming for a war. After 2 or 3 rounds, I mean, I didn't punch each other for 12 rounds. I've got the Prince of Monaco on one side, I've got Peter Nelson from HBO the other side, and I'm just like this. That was the worst fight. Yeah. The worst fight I've ever promoted in my life.
I've got another one as well.
Get out here.
Lawrence Secoli against Chamberlain was actually right up there with Lewis Ortiz. And we built that one. What did we build?
British beef.
British beef.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right? South London against East London. I sold 9,000 tickets for that. It wasn't even a British cruiserweight title. It was like a WBA. It's like you fighting someone from London or Manchester. 9,000 at the O2. The worst fight I've ever seen. And I did about 9 more Lawrence Secoli fights like that. Do you know what I mean? And then he won a world title.
Boring.
All right, easy.
All right, listen. We've got a few other questions that have come in. One is, who will be the next pay-per-view star out of the UK? We're going to go for everybody.
Quick fire.
Quick. Conor Ben?
Conor Ben.
Me.
Wait, come on. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Conor, I guess. Yeah, I mean, no, I was trying to think of something younger. I was trying to think of a younger.
Conor. I got 2 fighters here. I didn't know. Like, I didn't want to say one, and then Jordan just came.
I was trying to think of a younger fighter. That's all it was. But yeah, Conor. I mean, he's more established. He's more established. You're trying to.
So he's not established and he's old. Is that what you're saying?
Kill me. All right, next one, quick fire. If you was a superhero, what would your name be?
The Gorilla.
Eddie.
Money bags.
Fast car.
Good.
The practitioner of artistic violence.
Boy, that's solid.
Big Dazzling Darren.
How do you motivate yourself for a fight?
Slap my head.
Okay, alright. How do you motivate yourself for fight night? Hell of a fight day.
The Fight Day 5K outside the O2 this Saturday. I want to see a few of you there as well.
La Familia.
Oh, the family, yeah? Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I've got half a dozen kids, so it would have been them, but I didn't have them when I was fighting. Just, you know what it was, not to be too cheesy, just winning. Just winning was enough for me. Do you know what I mean? That feeling, it would never leave fighters. That feeling of your arm being raised, just victory, being the bee's knees.
I'll do that again because I said slap your head and I thought it'd be funny. Family, money, better life, joke, all that stuff.
Glorious. Eddie,
The other Darren Barker story is
oh wow.
he got injured. I mean, his career went like, imagine Daniel Gill, Felix Sturm, World Championship, loads of money. But there was a downtime when he came back from defeat and after injury, and we were going to go to the Brentwood Centre, and we found an opponent called Stefan Akrap.
Yeah, this was after Martinez. I was excited about it.
And what was we going to call the show? The Only Way is Essex had just launched. This is how bad things were at the time, right, as a company. And the company was me, Frank Smith, and John Wishaw. 3 people. Clueless. I mean, John had been around a while, but me and Frank Smith, clueless. We were going to do Darren Barker against Stefan Akrap at the Brentwood Centre. And we were going to call it The Only Way is Barker. I mean...
No, it was Bedazzled.
Eddie, quick one. What's been your favourite moment with AJ? Across the, obviously, the decade.
Probably like the Klitschko fight was one that I think no one will ever forget. But I was just, I don't say I don't remember that night, but it was just so mad. And 90,000 people, and probably hearing the announcement from Buffer of when he beat Andy Ruiz, and they're reading out the scorecards. I knew he'd won every round, but like, he was under such strict instructions that night, and at the end of every round, I'd just bang the canvas and say, another round. But like, he was standing there, I remember it, and I was looking right at him, and they just went, and now the new 2-time world heavyweight champion. Like, that was after everything that happened in New York, I think that was probably the sweetest moment.
That's incredible. Okay, quick one. I think it's a defining one I'm going to go through with all you guys. What was the toughest moment of your career?
Your kids.
The toughest moment. Probably my first, I guess the first attempt, other than injuries and things like that, but if I had to talk about a moment in my career when my first attempt at a world title against Sergio Martinez coming up short, thinking my world was over, you know, that was, am I going to get another chance? Is my time up? So probably that, but that was the making of me.
Another Darren Barker story.
Oh my days.
I'd like to say, we went into the Sergio Martinez fight. He went into the Sergio. It was like a massive moment for him, huge payday at a time. And like all fighters, you believe you can win that fight, but he'd never boxed at that level. Actually did really well in the fight. But I'll never forget, in Atlantic City after, we went for something to eat, and you took a few shots that night off the old small Rayers I think he was wearing at the time. And we were sitting at the bar, and you had your sunglasses on. And he was like, he was facing this way, and I was next to him, and he was just having a beer, and he was like, oh, like that. And he went, how am I looking? And he had his sunglasses. I went, well, take your sunglasses off. And he just went, and it was like that. Like literally, couldn't even see his eyes, wasn't it? It was a tough night at the office.
A follow-on story from that is when I come home, so from Atlantic City, got to Heathrow, and I'm in passport control, and it was a massive queue as it always is in Heathrow. And it finally gets to me, and the bloke goes, next. So I come over, he went, take your sunglasses off. I took them off, he went, hey, Pinnock, what happened to you? So I should have said, yeah,
like, yeah, I thought the pound for pound number one.
Toughest moment?
Yeah, please.
Well, a fight before last. I think the last 10 seconds was pretty tough, to be fair. Yeah. Definitely.
Very much so. Eddie, toughest moment of your career?
Probably the Conor Benn situation, or last Saturday, or Madison Square Garden. You know, I knew that. I thought to myself, we've sold out Madison Square Garden. Got the World Heavyweight Championship. I am going to wear a tuxedo and a bow tie. Do you know what I mean? And I thought, I'm going to look the bollocks, excuse my language out there. I've turned up Madison Square Garden, bow tie. And then at the end of the third round, I'm thinking, please AJ, get through this. And also, why did you wear a bow tie? Anyway, he got stopped. He got stopped in the fight. And they said to me, as we left Madison Square Garden, they just went,
Can I have a drink?
yeah, they just went, do you want to, your car's there? I went, no, I'll walk. And I walked through Manhattan, it was about, I don't know, 2 or 3 miles. I just slung me bow tie in the bin. And every now and again, a drunk Brit would just come out of a crevice somewhere and go, AJ, shit! And I just go, oh my God, please. That was a lonely walk. I'll never forget that night. That was a bad night, but also one of the greatest moments in the history of the Garden in terms of drama, you know, but luckily he won the rematch.
Absolutely, and John?
Mine would be not getting my hand raised in Liverpool for the world title.
I
Yeah.
was there as well.
Another Darren story.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our time here. I know it's after hours, but we've gone after hours. So we just want to thank you so much for what we got. What was that?
We've got a couple of questions in the crowd. Have we got time to do that?
All right, let's do it.
Real quick.
Guys, we haven't got time. We just haven't got time, sorry.
Oh, we ain't.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, alright, so I'd like to know what athletes like to eat. Usain Bolt is known for eating like 20 chicken nuggets the night before his race. I was wondering if you guys have any quirky meals that you have either the day before a fight or on fight day.
Well, yeah, mine, I probably shouldn't have eaten it, but it was, with boxing, you're always boiling down to a weight, so you want to be big for your weight. It's kind of it's an old-fashioned thing. I think more fighters now want to be strong for the weight, but the old school kind of approach was boil down and be big for the weight. So that process takes an awful lot out of you. So the time, you know, say a training camp's 10 weeks, by the time I got on the scales, made the weight, all I dreamt for 10 weeks was milkshake and chips. So this is no lie, I pretty much, at some point after the weigh-in, I'd eat chips and have a milkshake. True story.
Don't really allow that anymore.
No, again, I was part of the old school.
And we got one more over here.
Hi Eddie, what did you think of the Errol Spence and Crawford fight? And do you think there's anyone that might be able to match Crawford in the UK? Or?
No, I think Crawford's one of a kind. I think he's an incredible fighter. I mean, he's world champion at 135, undisputed at 140, undisputed at 147. He definitely beat Charlo to be undisputed at 154. And although Errol Spence definitely, the car crash and the retina and the weight worked against him, don't discredit the performance of probably the best fighter of our generation, I think, in Terence Crawford.
Well, thank you very much. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of our guests here, a huge thank you to you. And please put your hands together for all of our guests here at JD After Hours.